Hey guys, today we're going to make the Lexi Leo from Retro Sparkle Designs. You're going to need two bands, front and a back, and two armbands. You're going to start by placing the front and the back right sides together and pinning down each side. Once you've done that, you're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew down each side. I sped this up a little bit because I'm going to focus a lot more on the straps. The straps are really the tricky thing on this. The rest of it is pretty basic. So I've done that. I'm also going to do the crotch while I'm here. Might as well. Now that I've done that, I'm going to focus on my straps. So my straps, I have made notches where they were marked on the pattern. I also marked a little chalk too, so it's easier to see. I'm going to sew down the side of each band once I've folded them together. Now that I've done that, I'm going to open up my band and fold it in on itself. This took me a minute because of the cotton lycra trying to roll on me, so I rode the struggle bus a little bit. Eventually, I did get it. So I'm going to line up the arm, the seam on the armband to the seam on the Leo, and then my notches, I'm going to match up to those points at the top of the front and the top of the back. Try to get things lined up as best you can, and then you're going to sew all the way around. I used my serger. I think you could also zigzag on your regular machine and it would work just fine. I like to start at the point and start going. That way everything is kind of staying together. Be careful to catch both layers of your armband and the Leo. Make sure that side seam is lined up. This is actually sped up, so I went pretty slow on this. It is definitely something you have to really pay attention to and then get to that point. And then I'm just going to continue to sew all the way around the raw edge of the armbands. This will make it easier later for when I am needing to flip it. So I got back to my point and I have finished one side. You can see that is serged all the way around. Next, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with my armband on the other side. So again, this cotton lycra threw me for a loop. Try to keep things as nice as you can. Line that seam up with the side seam and clip or pin. And then again, take your notch on there and line it up with the point up top. This is where it gets a little tricky because you have two bands that are meeting at that top point. You're going to try and keep them right next to each other. So do not feel bad if you need to go slow. You want everything to be nicely matched up so they lay relatively flat when you're done. And then I'm going to do the same process as before. I am going to sew all the way around. While I'm sewing, I'm going to start right around that point again. That way I have everything lined up. Just be mindful of the fabric underneath, that you are not sewing to sewing the other side. I have to constantly adjust and readjust. Now I'm approaching that point again. So you want to make sure your armband from the other side is out of the way, and then sew all the way around the raw edge of that band again, just like we did on the last one, and we are back at our point. Now that I've done that, we have the two bands serged on. They meet at the top. There is a tiny little gap, but not much. So I'm going to flip it right side out, and then I'm going to start folding my serged side under just a little bit and clipping it. So I'm folding it under all the way around. We're going to be hemming that or cover stitching. You could also do a zigzag stitch on that and it would work just fine. I also go around the band. I flip that serge seam to the inside. You can see that we are ready to stitch that. So here we go again. this is relatively easy, but when you get to those points, you do need to be cautious that you're not catching your other band. So it took a little finagling on my part. And then instead of turning that serge seam towards the main body, I actually flip it up into the armband to stitch it down. That way everything lays as flat as possible. Again, just be careful that you are only catching the layers that you want to sew. Once I've gone around, this took me a minute to get out too. I had my fabric wedged under there. So you can watch me ride the struggle bus for a minute because I like to keep it real. I finally got it out. Next, we're going to do the same on the other side. Start at that top point. Keep flipping the seam allowance serged part under. I like to go all the way around. And it takes a minute. This is like double time sped up. It takes a minute. So go as slow as you need. It's not a race. Once I get all the way around, I'm also being careful to only serge that band. Now we've got it. Everything is lined up. I'm going to be able to cross these like that. And that is basically how I do my armbands on the Lexi. Then I added my leg bands after that, which I am not going into detail because I feel like that you can learn from another tutorial, but this is how I do my Lexi.